So Jimmy Kimmel is back on the air per Disney's release yesterday, and they gave their heavily lawyered reason as to why, because he did probably technically violate the law, and they had the choice to suspend him or cancel the show. They just suspended him. They brought him back on. Here's why they were able to. Two major carriers of ABC affiliates, Sinclair and Nexstar, had said last week that they weren't going to carry him. They weren't comfortable with that at all, and they weren't going to carry him anymore. Sinclair, the largest of the ABC affiliates, with I forget how many stations, but a lot of them, like 25%. They got so many death threats. Oh dear, can I say that word? They got so many threats of violence against them. And one of their ABC affiliates was literally shot up by leftists, upset about them not willing to carry Jimmy freaking Kimmel. And they backed off. They were going to show instead the other night, they were going to show a tribute to Charlie Kirk. And they canceled that because of all of the death threats. So violence from the left is what shut down the free speech of Sinclair being able to show that tribute and made them back down and be okay with him being back onto the air. If they weren't, Disney couldn't have made this. It would have been financially disastrous for them. But they were okay with it because of violence from the left. Stop talking about, oh, there could be this rising violence from the right. It's 98% on the left. Let's live in the real world. And the 4 Republican senators, including Ted Cruz, you need to wake the freak up.
President Trump renewed his call to pull the broadcast license of television stations that broadcast criticisms of him. This week, ABC suspended Jimmy Kimmel indefinitely after the late-night host commented on the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Kimmel has not commented publicly, and his future at the network is up in the air. But on Friday, workers were seen loading trucks outside the Hollywood theater where Kimmel's show has been produced since 2003.
Breaking Jimmy Kimmel news. So Sinclair said overnight that they were not going to air Jimmy Kimmel's show, even though it was supposed to return on Tuesday. And now Nexstar is saying the same thing. Here's what I think. Good. Because they won't get a part of the big, beautiful ratings. And now he can just shit talk him. Like, you know, it's kind of hard to shit talk someone when they're in the room. Well, unless you're just really petty. And Jimmy can be really petty, but now he doesn't have to worry about it. He can just go for it. And also, they don't understand, like, linear is dying. All Kimmel has to do is just go to streaming, go to Hulu, go to whatever, and he'll be even more popular and more successful and make more money there. They think they're hurting him, but they're actually helping him.
Jimmy Kimmel's going to be back on Tuesday night. Good. I hope he's funny. And I hope he does something with this moment. You have the theme of forgiveness that Erica Kirk put out there. That is one of the few virtuous things that's actually landing on social media. Yeah, it's still mostly horrible. Even reactions to the funeral and the general state of play is all just still unbearably negative because that's what sells. And Jimmy is in a unique position. And it's Rosh Hashanah, which is Jewish New Year. You say Shana Tova, right? For the new year, but it's all about forgiveness. It's about forgiving what was done to you, and it's about forgiving yourself for what, you regret and what you did. And the theme all takes us to the same place. I like that Jimmy Kimmel's night. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with the opportunity. I thought there was a chance that he was going to go on an FU tour and become a big digital outlet to counter the right. And I think he could do really well doing that in terms of profitability, rage baiting, playing to the outrage, all the things that the algorithms and so many different branding campaigns reward on social media. So ABC says a lot of thought, a lot of discussions. We decided to have him back on. Now, to me, as someone, who worked at those companies, the idea that he's going to come on and double down, I don't think so. So anybody who's saying that is just rage baiting you. And I know people are saying that right now. Oh, I think he's going to, I heard, no way. No way he doubles down. You want to bet? We'll make that bet. I hope he uses the opportunity to do what we actually need, which is instead of being intent on finding ways to profit off making it worse, he recognizes the incredible need for us to make it better. Let's see.
Disney is bringing him back on the air tomorrow. ABC says in a statement that we made the decision last week to suspend production to avoid further inflaming a tense situation at an emotional moment. But now, after having thoughtful conversations with Jimmy, the ABC says we reached the decision to return the show on Tuesday. So Kimmel's getting back to work.
Wow, Brian, that is significant, especially given that some of the players outside of Disney in a corporate setting like Nexstar and Sinclair, they essentially have deals that allowed them to preempt his show, and that's part of the reason that it was suspended. Yeah. Do we know how they might react to this?
We don't, and that becomes the big question now. Will these local station affiliates choose to air Jimmy Kimmel Live, or will they continue to protest the comedian even though the network is bringing him back nationwide? ABC does gently chastise Kimmel in this statement. The statement says, quote, "The decision to suspend him, we made it because we felt some of the comments were ill-timed and thus insensitive." So they're very gently saying they disagreed with Kimmel last week, but obviously they're bringing him back as of tomorrow.
And we don't know, obviously, all of the considerations that went into this, Brian. But I would say leaders, obviously, at ABC and Disney have had the benefit of a few days of feedback.
Yeah. Including from Disney employees who were very disturbed, including from Hollywood stars and showrunners, the kind of people Disney wants to work with, and from free speech groups, politicians, even some Republican politicians like Ted Cruz. We know the condemnation of Disney has been widespread. Now, what we don't know yet is what the counter reaction will be from President Trump and his allies.
That's a really good point. Brian, please stand by. Terry, your reaction to this news?
It's great news. It's great news. And I think you're absolutely right, and Brian is absolutely right. This was a community standing up for the rights of Jimmy Kimmel and all people who speak in public, entertainers and journalists and all of them. And it worked, at least with the head of Disney. And it makes good sense because they would have won in court. One thing that gets lost in this, you do not lose your First Amendment rights because you have a broadcast license. The Supreme Court has been clear on this. The government cannot take your license because of speech they don't like.
You were talking about Katharine Graham when the news broke, and these are the considerations of these bigger companies about how they're going to handle this and how they're going to think about it. They do have the benefit of some history as they do consider these moves.
Right. Well, Katharine Graham, when Nixon threatened to take her FCC, the Washington Post's FCC licenses, they had some local stations. It was a main source of income. She published them anyway. She said, forget about it. And that kind of corporate courage is rare, especially in the face of an administration that exceeds by many orders of magnitude any other presidency trying to silence speech it doesn't like.
If we still have Brian, I want to go back to him because one of the interesting bits of reporting that we got over the last few days was that Kimmel was actually preparing a monologue that would up the ante against some of the feedback that he got from the Trump administration. I mean, can you imagine, Brian, what might be formulating in terms of a response when he gets back on the air?
Right, Kimmel wanted to defend himself. So now Tuesday night's monologue becomes even more interesting. What he will be critical, and it might affect what local stations decide to do going forward.
Yeah, certainly will. I want to know what you think, Terry, about just sort of the moment that we are in when it comes to free speech. And I also want to play a moment from the White House press briefing today. This was a correspondent for Turning Point USA Frontline, associated with the group that Charlie Kirk founded, who asked the White House press secretary what her message is to Americans who are too afraid to express their beliefs. Here's a brief part of what Caroline Levitt said.
We have a right to free speech in this country. The president supports it. It is protected by our beautiful Constitution. And Americans should not cower in fear. They should rise up in courage to continue speaking the truth.
What do you think about what you're hearing from the White House there as we just get this news that Jimmy Kimmel will return to air tomorrow night?
Right. Well, see what the White House says. Everybody should speak up except the ones that the president doesn't like. He just barked at my former colleague, Jonathan Karl. Maybe we'll come after you because I don't like the content of your news coverage. All of this is bedrock First Amendment rights that we all have. And I think they've overreached here. Most Americans, even many who support President Trump, did not like the kind of gangster talk that the head of the FCC said, you can do this the easy way, you can do it the hard way. And they understand how precious this right is, even for people that they disagree strongly with. There's good common sense about our First Amendment rights, and I think Trump is running up against that.
Yeah, Senator Ted Cruz said it was out of Goodfellas, to your point there. Terry, thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate it. And this is the breaking news just in from Disney. Jimmy Kimmel, his show will return to air tomorrow night. Big news there, as a lot of conservatives who had been very pleased that his show was